Hey man, why does God allow animals to suffer?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the whole Adam and Eve disobey God thing, and they're punished, but how is this the animals' fault?
Hmm.
It breaks my heart that a God who is supposedly all powerful and all knowing isn't bothered when an animal is suffering. Like a tree could fall on a deer and lay there in agony, starving to death for no reason. How does this square with a God who also claims to be all loving?
So you're basically convinced that because these things happen, it's likely this God that's described in the Bible doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Okay, I'll give you my answer. You can take it or leave it.
sure.
So you said it before. Adam and Eve sinned. The relationship between humanity and God was severed.
Mm-hmm.
Everything started falling apart. In Romans 8:20, Paul says, "For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it." So because of the fall of man, all of creation was subjected to futility. So yes, Adam sinned, but his sin affected everything under his dominion.
What do you mean?
Well, in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, God says, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth."
Oh, so humans were in charge of everything that was created.
Yes, so think of this analogy. A married couple gets a divorce after the wife has an affair on her husband. The husband is kicked out of the house, and their teenage kids are emotionally distraught over it. One of the kids copes by getting involved at the wrong crowd at school and accidentally slips the idea that there are valuables at his house worth thousands of dollars. One night, burglars kick the door down, steal their valuables, and in the process end up shooting their family dog who is trying to stop them.
Okay.
It's probably a wild analogy, but there's a few things at play here. One, the father is the one who's told he's not loved any longer by his spouse. He leaves to create a space for possible reconciliation.
Sure.
Two, the children are collateral damage to that separation. It doesn't excuse the poor choices they make, but it certainly affects them.
Right.
Three, the dog is collateral damage to the collateral damaged teenager. My point is, if the father was in the picture, none of that likely would have happened, as the teenager wouldn't have coped in a way that brought him around dangerous people, and those dangerous people wouldn't have broke in had the father been home, and their dog would still be alive.
So you're saying the death and suffering we see is collateral damage?
Yes, but you wanted to know the love side of this. If God's loving, why let an innocent animal suffer? Why not reach in and prevent the innocent from being affected by someone else's mistakes?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what would life look like without consequences? I mean, if God took away the consequences of our actions, we wouldn't see the true fruit that sin produces. I mean, what if we flip that? What if God took away the consequences or results of the good actions we take?
Huh?
Like if I compliment someone, telling them that they look nice today or something, and God removed the reaction of that person to not feel better about themselves. I'm assuming you'd think that wouldn't be a very free, productive, or loving exchange between us.
No, I guess that'd be weird.
So I think when we demand that an all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving God to reach in and stop consequences from happening, what we're really asking for is a perfect environment where no bad things happen. Yet we still want the freedom to make any action we want. But if our actions never have negative consequences, that means we can't choose to do good because every action we take is now programmed to have positive or neutral reactions. This completely removes free will from the picture.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, but I'm having trouble connecting what Adam and Eve did to my scenario I gave before, where a deer is trapped under a fallen tree, suffering in agony and starving to death. How is that direct collateral damage?
Well, again, Adam was given dominion over all creation. In a sense, he was God's first ruler or emperor, however you want to word that. Everything was under Adam's stewardship, but God was the source of the perfection that was present in the creation. An analogy might help. The relationship between God and humanity was like a big, beautiful tree planted by a stream, where the roots of that relationship were continually nourished. But when the relationship was uprooted, the tree was left on the ground to wither away. And chaos has been unraveling on earth ever since. This sin Adam and Eve committed had a direct consequence to not only the animal kingdom, but all of creation. Their perfection only existed because of the presence of God. And these rulers that God appointed over all of creation essentially exiled God from his own creation. So we shouldn't ignore the theology of the fall of man when thinking through these things. It's easy to imply that if God is A, then the answer should be B. But without context, we end up oversimplifying the mission God had in mind, which was to ultimately create a world where free will exists at the cost of that free will being abused.